YouTube, what's good? XhiaGaming here and welcome back to the channel. In this video, as the title would explain, I happened to go to Taiwan over my Christmas break and spend just a little bit too much money on video games, in the realm of like $1,500. So what happened is I went to this video game store that happened to sell this absolute treasure trove of both old accessories and games, both from Japan, PAL format. It was insane. I'll chuck a little video up here so you guys can kind of see what the rough idea of it was. But what this video is I'm going to just show off exactly what I purchased. It's going to follow a format very similar to friend of the channel Eena's videos. So please be sure to go check out his channel in the links down in the description. We also do the Game Lounge podcast together if you aren't sure who he is. Because I happen to spend so much money at this store, the guy actually did me a very, very solid favor and gave me a couple of gifts. And he kind of got the general gist of what I was purchasing, so I went back on 2 occasions. The first time I was looking solely at like PlayStation stuff and stuff that I'd never seen before, either because they hadn't come to the Australian market or just because I had no knowledge of them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the stuff that I got for free, and then we'll kind of move up progressively into the more expensive and exciting things that I purchased. So, to start off, we have a couple of different DVDs. I know you're probably going to think, who has a DVD drive these days, but this one is probably going to be a cool little piece of content for the channel. I think Eena and I might do a little bit of reactionary type content, but what we have is a mix of DVDs here for Perfect E3 2004. We have the E3 report, Perfect E3 report 2005, Famitsu the 8. If anyone knows what this is, please let me know. It's got some interesting stuff on the back in terms of the content that it's got. It's got some stuff from EA, From Software, Idea Factory, Konami, Sony, Sega, Namco. So pretty interesting stuff on here. I think this is from 2006. So we'll look to review all of the content on there. My PSP game video selection. I don't know if this one's going to be worth opening and checking out just because, well, I've got a PSP in the drawer, but again, it's not really the reactionary type content, I don't think. And then this one, Famitsu PS2 Taiwan, the 2nd anniversary special present. So that's not exactly like the coolest thing, but it will be a nice piece of content for the channel, I reckon. Into the first exciting piece, but also still free, is the PlayStation Namco JogCon. And I don't even know what this game was for. I still kind of haven't researched the game or whatever, but looking at the controller, you can kind of see that it's got a very different look compared to your standard, I think it was PlayStation 1 or 2 controller, maybe. I don't actually know. A lot of this is in Japanese, and it doesn't make it explicitly clear as to what game or whatever, but it was for Japan only, and it's got like this little mounty bit. It looks like almost a scroll dial on the front here. Another one that I got for free was this game called Peripherals, and the way that I would describe this is just a karaoke type game. I can't understand a lot of what's on the cover, but I can understand here that there are 20 songs to choose from, and that it was for the PSP. And it's come with a little pair of earphones as well, specifically for the PSP. Yeah, I'm very interested to see what this is. I was going to say chuck up the songs on Spotify, but chances are they are not on there. Maybe YouTube? I might be able to check it out, see what songs we can jam along to. But that's Peripherals, another game that I'd never heard of until I went into this store. We also have the iToy Play 2. This one's a boxed one. I have iToy Play, the little smaller silver one, which was like the 2nd generation. But this is a nice little piece to have in the collection just because I didn't have one that was boxed. This is the Japanese version again. A lot of the stuff I'm going to show you through this collection is from Japan, so not a lot of PAL stuff, or not a lot of stuff in terms of accessories were brought to the PAL market or Australia. Again, everyone knows what iToy is. This was sort of the first AR experience that you could do with PlayStation on the PS2 specifically. and then they went into like the PSP pet game and stuff like that. But yeah, this was cool. It's especially interesting to see now, given the leaps that we've had in tech and advancements and whatnot with their foray into PSVR and whatnot, but very cool to see. There is another one here that I've accidentally put in the wrong pile, but this was the final thing that I got for free. It's the way he described it was it's a Namco PlayStation controller made specifically for a single type of game, and it's a side-scroller type game. So looking at the controller, I actually don't know what this is called. I had to look it up by the serial number, but it's got a left and a right button, and then it's got kind of like a scroll wheel type dial that you can adjust. I don't know. Again, I want to find out what game this was for. I think it would have been made for like 1 or 2 games. It's in a very small box. Very weird, very strange, as someone who's gone into this store and had no clue as to what any of this stuff is. Moving right along into my first purchased piece, we have the PSP Cradle base. So the way this works is kind of like, if you know what the PS Vita TV is, it works in a very similar concept. So you dock your PlayStation into this cradle and you would essentially be able to mount it up and connect it to your TV. So because the PlayStation Portable, if you guys remember, it allowed the UMD discs, and at the time they released movies onto there. So there was like a full selection of, I think, Sony movies that came to those UMD discs. I think I had King Kong the movie at the time, from Peter Jackson. Fantastic movie, by the way. But you were able to put your UMD disc into the PlayStation Portable, connect it to this cradle, and then load it up onto your TV to watch. And this was for the PSP 2000 series with certain software requirements and whatnot. But I actually think this was a universal, or at least PAL piece of tech, because it's all in English. It's not in Japanese, and probably one of the few things that I've collected here that isn't in Japanese. So super cool piece of tech. Very weird. Again, I never saw this. Would have been cool to have, because watching especially like an action heavy movie like King Kong on a PSP was not the best experience, but it's all right. We move on. Keeping with the PSP trend, we have the PSP, I think this was the camera? Yes, the camera. I have the microphone that I picked up off eBay, but I'll go through that in another video. But this is the PSP camera. So on top of the PSP, you'd be able to mount this on and take photos and whatnot. It was, to give you an example, my phone that I'm filming this video on, I think is like 40 megapixels, if I'm not mistaken, maybe a bit lower. But this one is a relic. This one is 1.5 megapixels. So massive generational leap. If you think that this was only like 10 to 15 years ago, how far we've come, and the fact that it's all now packed into my Google Pixel, and every generation of phone just seems to increase the amount of megapixels that they pack into it. So crazy, absolutely crazy. Cool little piece though. This will go again with the rest of my Sony storage cabinet stuff. It's gonna be nuts when I finally get that for the new house, whenever that comes around. Next piece up, this is one that I actually had been looking for at the time. Before I went into this store, I'd wanted to buy this off eBay, so immediately when I saw this, it was a yes. This is the PlayStation Pocket Station. For those of you who haven't seen it, the easiest way to describe it is probably like a Tamagotchi, but PlayStation's version of it. I don't think it's going to be something that I'll pull out of the packet and play per se, but it is nice to have as part of my collection, because this was something that was, you would have probably seen it if you played Astro's Playroom for the PS5. It's one of the things that shows up in that game, and that's where I first found out about it, and I was like, oh, that's a cool little piece of tech. That would be nice to have in my collection. Next up, and again, another piece of tech that I was kind of looking for before I went into this. This is the PlayStation mouse. Again, another thing that I found out about through Astro's Playroom in particular. I don't know, again, what this was compatible with. in the slightest, but I did like the concept of it. And the fact that I was able to find one that's boxed, even though it's been opened and whatnot, it is still its original box, which is nice. And it's kept in pretty good nick. It's got like a couple of blemishes and whatnot across the front facing and a little bit of bend, like fraying, I guess, but that's to be expected. This comes from, I think, like the 1990s, so it's been around for a good 20 something years at the moment. Very cool. One of the pieces that I definitely wanted to have in my collection, and I'm glad that I now am the proud owner of it. Moving right along, this one kind of took me by surprise. It was something that I had originally looked for at the time of release, and I wasn't able to get my hands on it just because of the limited supply of it, and that is the PlayStation 4 DualShock 4 500 million collection controller. So he had this on sale and I kind of picked it up. This was one of the initial pieces that I had picked up and was like, yes, I'm definitely grabbing this. Because when I first went into the store, my girlfriend could see that I was absolutely losing my mind at the amount of stuff that was in this store. And she kind of gave me a limit. She said, you can have 5 things. As you can see, so far from the pile, we far exceeded that. But this was one of the ones that I definitely had to have in my collection, because they still sell these on Amazon at the moment and eBay obviously, but if you're wanting to get one of these, they'll set you back like $200-300, which is insane. But of course it was only a limited run, so I'm glad I was able to pick this one up. It was a little bit expensive. It, I think, was like $150, so more expensive relatively speaking, but in the sense that it's still far less than what I'd pay for it if I was to pick it up off eBay or a game reseller or Amazon, which is crazy. So yes, very nice. This one again will remain in its packaging in the plastic wrap. This is not original plastic wrap, it's just something that the store owner used to keep it protected from the dust and the sun and elements and whatnot. Next up, this guy. This is fun. This is something that's Nintendo based, which I guess you probably wouldn't expect to see on this channel, given that everything that I've shown you up until this point has been Sony. But this is an amiibo, and I purchased this one just because of the hype of Elden Ring, and I think he's very cool. But I think this is called, I think Geordie called him Sun Guy. So it's from it's the Dark Souls amiibo. He's stretching out, hands to the sun. Very glorious, very gracious. Honestly, I probably won't keep him. This is probably going to be one of the ones that I flip to another person, because whilst it's cool, it doesn't hold any value to me. I just thought it was a cool piece at the time, and yeah, I think he looks very cool. But this will be someone's, so if you want it, I'll be on eBay very shortly. Keep an eye out for it. The next thing, I'll save that one. Let's do this one. This is Resident Evil Biohazard Revelations Unveiled Edition for the PS3. So this is kind of what, as you can see here, it's in a little bit of a different packaging, and it's called The Best. So The Best, I think, is kind of like the Taiwanese, Chinese, and Japanese equivalent of Platinum games. So once they've sold a certain amount, they'll then get republished at a cheaper rate. So I kind of think that's what's happened here, but they've done up a special edition version of it too, which is kind of crazy because I wouldn't usually think that a Platinum game would get a special edition release or whatnot, but I'm very happy with this. I think it's, again, going to be something that someone else will benefit from a lot more than I will, but I like the fact that they had it and I was able to pick it up. Inside the box, because I'm going to leave it in the plastic packaging, it's got the PS3 game and what looks to be a Biohazard Archive Special Edition Jill and Chris's files. So maybe like a book or something inside there with some collectible pieces of paper. As I say, someone else will benefit from that much more than I will. I'm just a casual Resident Evil player, not a hardcore stan. Moving right along, another PlayStation game, just a Platinum copy. This is Ico for the PS2, and again, one of the ones in the Best collection, so a Platinum game essentially. This was just a game that I didn't have as part of my original PlayStation 2 collection, and one that I wanted to add to it. It was on sale. It was really cheap. I think it was like 20 bucks. Yeah, worth picking up. Keeping with the Resident Evil theme, I've got Resident Evil Revelations 2 for the PS Vita. I'll be honest, I messaged Eena at the time when I first saw this, and I was like, is this bootleg? Because I've never seen this PlayStation Vita game before, either in Australia or just in general. Because remember when the PlayStation Vita was out, there wasn't the biggest lineup of games, so chances are if there was a big enough game out, especially Resident Evil, you'd hear about it. So I was immediately like, alright, I'll pick this up. Even if it's bootleg, it's worth having in the collection, because I picked this one up for 30 bucks. And after a quick scan of eBay, they go for like 50 to 70 plus, which is insane, but also kind of understandable given the information that I said about it not being readily available or heard of. Maybe it's just the fact that I'm not a big Resident Evil fan, that I didn't catch wind of this per se. This again will probably be something, I don't know, I'm kind of just undecided if I want to play this game. I might, because I have my Vita, it's still working, I use it every time that I travel, but I might look up a couple of reviews for this one. If you think I should play it, let me know down in the comments below. Otherwise, I will probably, again, send that on to someone who enjoys it more. Continuing with the Resident Evil theme, I have Biohazard Deadly Silence for the Nintendo DS. Again, this is a Japanese copy of the game. This was one of the games that I picked up on my second journey to this store, and it was something that I'd showed Eena at the time, and he was like, oh my god, yes, pick this one up. I'm kidding, he didn't say it just like that, but very, very cool piece. This one I think was like 50 bucks, so it kind of teeters on the edge of like what it would be able to be picked up for at the moment. But this is, I think, a very cool piece, very different, very interesting, especially given the resurgence of like Nintendo DS and 3DS games at the moment. I think it's a very cool pickup. Again, something that will be passed on to someone else, because this I think will be more exciting for another Resident Evil fan. And I know what you guys are thinking, you're like, how come you've got so much Resident Evil stuff that you've picked up if you're not a huge fan of it? Well, I have to say, wait, there's more. But that one's going to be the very last thing that I show. In the meantime, from the creators of Resident Evil, we have Dino Crisis. This was a game that I grew up playing. I played Dino Crisis 1, 2, Turok. I was kind of in a dinosaur phase when I had my PlayStation 1, I think. I had toy dinosaurs and whatnot growing up, so makes sense. I don't think Mum and Dad realized this was a 15 plus type game. But this one is originally from Australia. It's got the Australian government MA15 medium level animated violence rating on the front cover, which is crazy that it's made its way from Australia over to Taiwan and now made its journey back home. So this is in fact a PAL copy of the game. Sadly the case is a little bit cracked. I want to try get that fixed up if I can with a new shell, just because it would be much nicer to not be cracked, especially obviously. But yeah, we'll see how we go with it. I'm not too worried about it. This is kind of going to sit with my PlayStation 1 collection. And look, I've got other cracked cases as well, so it doesn't faze me too much. Not as much as it probably should. But yeah, that's what it is. The next game, I'm going to blur this one out. But if you want to go see this, this will be in a separate video where I surprised Eena with a surprise game from Taiwan. We did a full challenge for this, and we think it's a very cool video. That'll be dropping right after this one in the next week or two, so be sure to stay tuned for that one. I think Eena's also going to do an edit and put it up on his channel as well. So again, be sure to go support him. He helped me out with a bunch of game selections for this trip, and I really appreciate it. Onto the Grail stuff. So I've got 3 Grail pieces. This is the first one I'm going to show you. This one's heavy. This one was the one that I kind of didn't want to get initially, because I was like, I haven't weighed it, but it would be like a good 600-700 grams, maybe plus. But it's PlayStation for the PS1. Now, if you've seen you can only see the front game here, but in the collection I have 15. I have 1 to 14, and then the front one here is number 0. So number 0 is the rarest one, and kind of the one that drew me to it the most. I kind of asked this guy if he'd sell me just number 0 instead of 1 to 14 just because of the weight. He said no, obviously, because it's a packaged bundle. But essentially what PlayStation was, after a bit of watching on YouTube and trying to scour the internet for it, it was a demo disc that got sent out at a subscription service. And each disc would just have a couple of games installed, and I think other little featurettes and trailers and that sort of thing, and show you exactly what was coming out for the PlayStation over the coming months. So this is a pretty cool one. I really want to now finish the collection. I think there were 19 in total, so I need 15 through 19 to finish this up. But this is a very, very cool grail piece, and one that will stay in my collection and be like a prized possession. I kind of want to do like a full now video essay on this now that I've found out a little bit more about it, because the story is quite cool. But man, it was so sad seeing how much the magazine and the demo disc went for. It is so cheap, like ridiculously cheap compared to today's standards. Moving on to the next one that I think people on this channel would be quite familiar with. This is a boxed version of Pokemon Red for the Game Boy Color. Yeah, this was something that both my girlfriend and I saw in store, and we were kind of like, whoa, that's pretty cool. I think we should grab that. But one of the biggest concerns that I had when picking this one up was, is it real? Because a lot of the times when looking at these Game Boy games, they were reproduced and replicated and faked. A lot. I had a couple of fake Game Boy games back in the day. But I kind of asked him, I was like, hey, my kind of biggest concern is it fake? And he was like, well, I understand your concern, I get why. But he was very honest and very forthcoming. He pulled out a fake copy of the game. He opened this one up and showed me and compared them. And it's kind of day and night as to which one's real and which one's fake. Thankfully, my one's the real one. I kind of did pay as such. This was $250, which is a little bit more on the expensive side, but if you enjoy Pokemon Red, this was the one that I played as a kid, so it's kind of sentimental to me, more so than, say, another generation of Pokemon. But inside it's got everything. It's got the game, it's got the trainer's guide, it's got the manual, and I think that's it for what came in the original box. It's definitely an English version. Actually, I can tell you exactly where it's from. It's from the USA. It says for sale, rental, and use only in the USA, Canada, Mexico, and Latin America. So there you go. This is an American copy of the game. So for the guys who play this is one of the bigger markets. Yeah, and the packaging is very, very well kept, I'd say. Because I want to say that it would be either a Japanese owner who had this for the longest time, or Taiwanese. And they tend to care for, as you can see, the rest of the stuff I've showed you, they tend to care for their games and their packaging a lot more than we do here in Australia, where we'll just like rip it open and rip it to shreds. Like, I can imagine me as this 8-year-old, 9-year-old, whenever old I was, when I picked up Pokemon, I would have just opened this box and gone, so glad to see that this one is well preserved and well maintained. And now the very final piece of today's massive journey of collections, and probably the most exciting. This is, I told you there was more Resident Evil stuff to come. This is Resident Evil Biohazard Deadly Sins Limited Pack. Now, the first thing you might notice is it's very glossy, and that's because not only has the store owner put a special protective layer of plastic on the outside, it's also still in its original Nintendo plastic. So this is kind of the same DS game that I showed you before, with Biohazard Deadly Silence, but it's also got a DS skin or case, I believe, a little wallet with a badge inside, and a special tactics and rescue service wrist strap. Now, this one is definitely hard to find. So again, massive props and shout out to Eena for his help with this one, because we looked all over the internet trying to find boxed copy. And the best thing that we could find was I think it was an unboxed, but still with box copy of the game. And that was retailing on eBay for $1,000. So as you can imagine, I saw this one. I left the store and I came back to get this one because I was like, I can't leave the store without it. And he kind of said to me, look, I can't let you leave the store without bubble wrapping it first so that it's safe. So he knows for a fact, the store owner, that this is not only just a piece of gaming history, but it's very, very rare. And to the right person, it's super exciting. This is something that I'm kind of umming and ahhing about as to whether I keep it in my collection or what I do with it. But at the moment, I think it's gonna sit with me. Very, very exciting piece to have in my collection, and something that, very, very rare. And I only got it for $300. So yes, that's expensive. $300 for a single game purchase is pretty expensive. But if you want to consider the fact that like I can go to JB Hi-Fi or EB Games right now and put in a pre-order for Star Wars Last Survivor for, I think, the same price with the lightsaber is crazy. So like this is something that's definitely holds more value, something that's very exciting to have in my collection, and something that will stick around with me for a while. But that's it in terms of everything that I bought. I'd love to hear in the comment section down below what you guys thought of this collection. Did I overpay for what I bought at the 1,500 Australian dollar price tag? Did I get a great deal? Which piece was the most exciting to you? As always, go check out Eena's channel. I can't state enough how much he helped in terms of picking games and research. So be sure to check out his channel. He does awesome unboxing and collection videos similar to this one. So if you like this, you'll definitely love what he does. Please like, subscribe, comment, and until next time, I'll see you later. Tap the bell icon after subscribing and you'll never miss a video again. And consider checking out my Facebook page as well for daily gaming updates and news. Thanks, guys. YouTube, what's good? XhiaGaming here, and welcome back to another unboxing video. This time it's something very special. As you can kind of tell, the frame is much wider for both the cameras now, so